Stop destroying your bike indoors. Riding indoors is great, but it can do serious damage to your pride and joy. Don't worry though, in this video we're going to show you how to avoid that and also save money by protecting your bike. First thing you got to worry about is sweat. It is enemy number one when it comes to damaging your bike indoors. It gets absolutely everywhere. It soaks into your bar tape. It can corrode carbon and alloy. It loves to seep inside bearings too, particularly the headset bearing, where it will corrode it, cause it to rust, and, well, you're going to need a new one. The first thing we'd recommend is use a towel. Now, everyone has towels lying around and they're good for wiping sweat off you, but also just have one draped across your bars and that'll collect sweat landing on your bar tape and also into the headset area. Something else you might want to invest in is a specific sweat catcher. Various different brands make these. You can pick them up for not much cash at all online, and then they simply attach over the bike like this, and these will collect sweat as you ride, protecting that all-important headset area. Personally, when I'm training indoors, I use one of these and a towel. After a heavy period of indoor training, probably the winter for most of you, but quite possibly the summer if you live in England, I'd suggest peeling back your bar tape and inspecting underneath it. And that's because a huge amount of salt can accumulate there, which is a nightmare for your handlebars and also the clips that attach the shifters onto the handlebars. This is a video that friend of the channel Steve Grimwood has sent us. One of his customers brought this bike into his shop for a service. Look at the salt crust underneath the bar tape. It's completely destroyed the handlebar. Many of you have submitted similar images in the GCN app too, which, well, it's quite horrifying to see. What causes it is actually some quite cool chemistry. So, well, sweat is a galvanic solution, and at opposite ends of the scale are both carbon and, well, aluminium. So what you basically create is when you have the electrolytic solution and those two different materials, you've effectively created a battery, and that's what causes the corrosion. Now, this exists in various parts of your bike. So in the case of the handlebars, if you've got a carbon handlebar and then you've got the aluminium clamp of the shifter, you've got that cathode and anode effectively causing a battery when there's loads of sweat and moisture there. Again, areas such as if you've got a carbon frame, if you've got aluminium seat post bolts on there, or the aluminium bosses for your bottle cage, where the bottle cage bolts go in, these are classic areas where you can experience bad corrosion if you don't wipe that sweat off and keep on top of it and clean your bike. Things like your bottom bracket as well. Something you may wish to consider if you're a particularly heavy sweater, and some of us do sweat more than others, is after an especially hardcore session, you might want to just consider wiping your bike down and just taking the sweat off it if it's accumulated a lot on there. But something else that you can do is invest in a dehumidifier. This is something that I've done. It's probably my most middle-aged purchase to date, but it is an absolute game changer. If you're training in a pain cave or a small box room, it can often get very, very humid in there, and moisture can accumulate in that room, which is, well, bad for the building, I guess, but also bad for any metal components on your bike or steel components on your bike, as just leaving it in a damp, moist environment is going to cause it to rust. Having a dehumidifier in there will just make everything much drier and just stop general rust occurring all over the bike. It's not just your bike, you might be destroying your floor too. Get yourself a mat. If you're using a wheel-on trainer or rollers, then don't waste your fancy low rolling resistance super duper race tyres. Instead, swap them out for an older worn tyre that you wouldn't want to use on the road. You can also invest in an indoor training specific tyre. These are a bit more hard wearing and they can have the advantage of being a bit quieter, but they are quite expensive and they're not essential. If it were up to me, I'd rather just go with an older worn out road tyre that I'm no longer using. Make sure your drivetrain and your gears are clean. This, well, is more efficient, which is useful in saving you watts if you're competing on indoor races, but it's also going to help these components last longer and not wear as quickly. When they're dirty, that increases the wear rate. That's going to cost you more money in the long run. Also, if your cassette on your indoor trainer is worn and then you put on a new chain on your bike and connect it to it, that worn cassette is going to cause the new chain to wear out more quickly. A waxed chain is absolutely ideal for indoor training, but nothing lasts forever. Things do still wear out. So make sure you keep tabs on your chain wear with a chain wear checker to see if it has become worn, and also visually inspect your cassette to see if it has become sharp and that needs replacing too. When it does come time to replace your cassette though, don't waste money getting the super expensive components for indoor riding. You know, weight doesn't matter indoors on your indoor trainer bike. So, you know, if you've got a Dura Ace cassette on your bike or Ultegra and you need 12 speed, just drop down to a 105 cassette. But what about that classic question? Is my bike safe on the indoor trainer? Will just riding indoors on my bike damage it? Well, in all my experience of riding indoors, I've never known anyone damage a bike by riding it indoors. Most modern road bikes now are sanctioned for use in indoor training. You should assume from your bike that it is okay to be used indoors. However, check with every individual bike and check with your bike. It should be listed on the manufacturer's website, or you can contact the individual manufacturer and they should get back to you with an answer. Although, as I say, most bikes should be okay. That said, make sure you do connect your bike properly. So this is, being a disc brake bike, has a through axle. It's a very solid connection to the trainer. If you're using a rim brake bike, make sure you use one of the heavy duty indoor training skewers such as this, which are often supplied with indoor trainers. These are far stronger and secure your bike much more than using a standard quick release skewer. And in particular, those lightweight kind of titanium minimalist ones that you might use when riding outdoors. Yeah, they're great, they save a load of grams, but they're nowhere near as stiff and as heavy duty as one of these. You don't want your bike to come loose when you're doing a flat out effort on the indoor trainer. It can be catastrophic for both you and your bike. So there you have it. This isn't an exhaustive list of tips, but these are things that I think are really important. If you've got some additional tips that you think are useful, please post them in the comments down below, as we do read them. I hope you found this useful, and I'll see you in the next one. Love you. Bye.